Are you suffering from a calf strain? It's one of the most frustrating injuries that we as runners have to overcome. And if you're not careful with your rehab, it's so easy to re-injure yourself. In this video, I'll share some helpful tips that will get you back to running. Welcome to Blazing New Trails. I'm Gary, and thanks for tuning in. Now, I don't claim to be a doctor or a physical therapist, but 40 years of running have given me a pretty good base of experience from which to draw upon. I'm not here to give you a medical explanation, but more importantly, I'll share some practical tips from a runner's perspective that are sure to help you speed your recovery. Be sure to stick around because I'll have some nuggets that others really aren't talking about. Let me give you a little bit of a backstory on my injury to offer maybe a little bit of perspective. And so Linda and I had left St. Louis. We were going on a trip to Goshen, Indiana. The summer had been really hot in St. Louis, and I was really looking forward to some cooler temperatures. And it was towards the end of our trip there in Goshen, and I went out one early morning and was having a really nice run. There was a trail about maybe half a mile or so from our campground, and I was out for a 7-mile run. Well, at about 5 miles, there's a bridge, and I'm coming across that bridge, and I was in one of those zones where I really wasn't thinking much. So as I started to step off that bridge, for some reason or another, I was looking straight ahead, not really paying much of attention to my footing, and the ball of my foot hit the last plank in that bridge. And basically, I ended up doing a half stride because all of my force went into the ball of my foot, into that plank of the bridge, and basically it put a tremendous load of stress on my calf. So I didn't really feel anything at the minute, and I was about 1.5 miles or so from the camper, and I was able to finish the workout really without much problem. Well, 2 days later, when I tried to run, I was 1 mile into the workout, and I felt my calf go. And so I immediately stopped and started walking to assess the problem, and right then I knew I did have a calf problem. I can't tell you how upset, how frustrated I was. The last thing you want to be doing is rehabilitating. But sometimes those things happen. Life happens. And what I'm going to share are things that I've learned through this process. The first thing that I did, which I mentioned earlier, I ceased running altogether because I knew if I continued to run, it would only damage the muscle even more. Fortunately, there was no swelling, no bruising, so right then I knew I had a mild calf strain. So that's one important thing, is to know what grade of a strain you have, because the worse the strain is, you may need to seek medical attention. So basically I took several days off, let the inflammation subside, and then I started back cycling, and I rode my bike quite often, and then I also started to work in some weight training, and so I did that, kind of alternated every other day. And then after a week, I also added the stair stepper because I wanted to get some additional cardio, try to get in that running movement. So after about 18 days of rehabilitation, I introduced running again. Lo and behold, 5 workouts later, it happened again. And I can't tell you just how devastated I was. It took me, I guess, about a day or so to come off the ledge. But, I realized that I really had to get serious, a lot more serious, with my training. And I made maybe a few tweaks to that recovery. And so a couple of the things that I wasn't doing was, one, ice. I wasn't icing my calf regularly. if at all. The other thing I wasn't doing was foam rolling my calf. And so I added those two factors, and I did that very diligently. So this time around, I took 4 weeks off, and before I started running, I really kind of did an assessment of how I was feeling, and I really felt much stronger. The calf was feeling good. I wasn't feeling any sort of stiffness, anything like that. I felt much more confident going into this next block of running as I resumed my training again. And so when I started, I went out really, really easy, really slow, but yet I felt good. But every now and then I would have these phantom pains, and it would cause me to kind of freak out, because the only thing I could think of was a relapse. But I kept going because I kind of had that confidence that I had kind of rebuilt my systems, my joints, everything, and I forged ahead. And then during one of my runs, I had an epiphany. And it kind of took me back to my childhood. And back when I was a teenager, I played polo with my dad. And my dad was a veterinarian specializing in equine. And so one of the things that we did with some of our horses, because there were several of them that their front legs, their front tendons, they needed extra support beyond the polo wraps that we would bandage their legs with. And so my dad had this, back then it was a 3M tape. And so we would wrap their tendons to give them that extra support to help them be able to come through the match without straining their tendons. And so, I got to thinking, if it worked for our horses, why shouldn't it work for my calf? So I start the wrap low, and I try not to pull it overly tight, but still taut enough to make sure that there is a good feeling of support. The other thing too that I like is, if you treat the wrap right, you can sometimes get 2 or maybe 3 uses out of it. So if you're seeing some of the wrap that maybe looks like it's got some creases in it, that's why. The one really careful thing you need to watch for is, I mentioned you want it tight, but you don't want to cut off your circulation. The other thing about this wrap is it's flexible, and it breathes. So it's not like tape where there's no give to it. So this was a major, major game changer for me, because soon after I started wrapping my calf, I could feel that support. And as I started running, a lot of those phantom pains went away. And I can't tell you just how much more confidence that gave me. I'm 5 workouts into it, and it does make a difference. The first time I tried it was a 5K race, and now I wasn't going all out, but it helped get me through a race. And then 2 days later, I did another 5K race. And again, there were a lot more hills, few more hills in this one, and I got through without any problems. And I've had 3 subsequent runs since then. So I can tell you, this last run that I did, it was a 10K, my furthest distance yet, and I felt great. Well, guys, I can't tell you how good it feels to be back running again, to actually feel like I've got some confidence that my calf is going to hold up. That tape really seems to make all the difference. But in addition to this wrap, make sure you use compression sleeves, because that also helps to keep the heat in. The other thing I can't emphasize enough is no back-to-back days. And this probably goes without saying, but you need to reduce your intensity as well as your mileage when you're getting back into your program. That is huge. Even if you're feeling good, hold back. Don't do it. But you be the judge. You know what your body is capable of doing, but I just caution you, be extra careful. The other thing I would highly suggest is you need a soft surface. And what I like and first started out on is a local trail. Find a surface that is going to be easy on your joints, on your calves, and that's flat. Proper warm up, proper cool down. That probably goes without saying, but it's even more important as you start to rebuild that connective tissue again, because it needs to kind of relearn that pounding again. And when you do start into your program, make sure you're introducing a little bit of walking in there, and do some walking and running as well. And then just gradually cut down the amount of walking you're doing and just increase your running. That will go a long way in getting you back on your feet and running full time. The one thing that I highly, highly, highly recommend, if you're not already doing it, is to strength train. Why is strength training so important? You know, as we get past the age of 30, our muscle mass decreases 5 to 7% every 10 years. So, if you're not building your strength and keeping up with it, and you've got that built into your routine, you're losing that muscle mass that might help you get through some of these little niggles and other things that might be happening to your body. Case in point for me, I wasn't doing any strength training. So maybe if I was training and lifting weights, when I stubbed the ball of my foot on that bridge, maybe it would have been nothing. So let me wrap up this video. And first of all, what I want to say, and I alluded to this earlier, is try to find the positive. And again, nobody wants to be injured. It's no fun to be sitting out from running and maybe missing out on some of those goals that you've set for the year. But there are some positives. Appreciate you watching, and I hope maybe this has been beneficial for you. Getting it from a runner's perspective, I think, always helps. And try that wrap. I can't tell you how well it's been working for me. Try it out. Let me know in the comments how it's working for you, if it is working for you. Maybe some injury tips that you might be using to get through a problem like this. I'd love to hear what you have to say. You know, as runners, we love to talk about racing. We love to talk about training. Just any little nugget out there that might help improve and maybe possibly get to that next level. Again, hope this has worked for you, will work for you, and I look forward to seeing you on the trails. So until the next time, bye for now.